There comes a moment in life when actions echo louder than words. A moment when a man realizes that the woman he took for granted was not ordinary. She was rare, genuine, and deeply valuable. Hurting a good woman doesn't just break her heart. It awakens fears he never expected. At first, he convinces himself that she will stay no matter what happens. He believes her patience is endless, her love unshakable, and her forgiveness guaranteed. He gets comfortable in that belief, treating her presence like something permanent instead of something precious. But a good woman doesn't operate on blind tolerance forever. She observes, she feels, and she remembers. Every moment she's overlooked, every time her heart is taken lightly, something inside her begins to shift. It's not loud or dramatic at first. It's quiet, almost invisible, but it's real. When she finally reaches her limit, her departure is not impulsive. It's the result of deep thought, silent battles, and emotional exhaustion. By the time she decides to walk away, she has already detached herself in ways he never noticed. That's what makes it so shocking for him. One day she's there, caring, loving, and present, and the next she's distant, calm, and gone. No arguments left, no energy to fight, no desire to fix what has been broken too many times. That's when fear begins to take hold. Not the kind of fear that shows on the surface, but the kind that lingers in the quiet moments. He starts to realize that she might not come back this time. The calls go unanswered, the messages feel colder, and her absence becomes louder than any argument they ever had. He replays conversations in his mind, searching for the exact moment things changed, wondering if he could have done something differently. What unsettles him the most is the understanding that she gave him chances, more than he deserved, and he wasted them. A good woman doesn't leave because she wants to. She leaves because she has to. And once she reaches that point, her return becomes unlikely. That's the part he struggles to accept. The idea that someone who once loved him deeply can now choose a life without him forces him to confront a reality he never prepared for to face. He tries to act unaffected at first, telling himself that she was replaceable, that there are plenty of others who can offer what she did. But deep down, he knows that's not true. A good woman isn't easy to find, and what she brought into his life was more than just companionship. It was stability, loyalty, and a kind of genuine care that can't be faked. Once she's gone, that quiet confidence here begins to crack, replaced by a growing unease he can't ignore. The thought that she might meet someone else begins to creep in slowly. At first, it's just a passing idea, something he brushes off. But then it becomes more vivid. He imagines another man noticing the little things he overlooked, her kindness, her patience, the way she supported him even when he didn't deserve it. He starts to picture someone else treating her better, listening more closely, appreciating her in ways he failed to. That's when the fear truly sets in. What makes it worse is knowing that she deserves that kind of love. He can't even convince himself that she'll struggle to move on because he knows her worth. He knows that any man with sense would see what she offers and hold on to it tightly. That realization turns his confidence into insecurity. Instead of wondering if she'll find someone, he starts wondering when it will happen. As time passes, every sign of her moving forward becomes heavier to process. A simple change in her energy, her independence, or even the idea that she's healing without him feels like a quiet confirmation that she no longer needs him. And the possibility that someone else might step into the space he once occupied becomes harder to ignore. He begins to compare himself to an unknown future man, someone who might be more attentive, more mature, more ready to love her properly. That comparison eats at him, not because he wants to compete, but because he knows he had the chance and failed. The fear isn't just about losing her. It's about watching someone else become everything he should have been. At first, he tries to distract himself from what happened. He keeps busy, surrounds himself with noise, and avoids thinking too deeply about the past. For a while, it works. The weight of his actions feels distant, almost manageable. But distractions don't last forever. Eventually, there are quiet moments, late at night, or in between everything, when there's nothing left to hide behind. That's when regret begins to surface. It doesn't come all at once. It builds slowly, piece by piece. He starts remembering the small things first. Her voice, her patience, the way she showed up for him even when he didn't ask. Then the bigger moments follow. The times she tried to communicate, the chances she gave him to do better, the way she stayed when most people would have left. He begins to see those moments differently now, not as ordinary parts of the relationship, but as opportunities he failed to value. What makes the regret heavier is the realization that he understood her worth all along. He just didn't act like it. He knew she was good to him, knew she cared deeply, yet still chose behaviors that facing himself becomes unavoidable once the distractions fade. When she was still there, he could deflect, justify, or minimize his behavior. Her presence made it easier to escape accountability because there was always another chance, another moment to make things right later. But once she's gone, there's no buffer left between him and his own actions. The silence forces honesty, and that's where the discomfort begins. He starts to recognize patterns he once ignored. How he dismissed her feelings, how he responded without empathy, how he chose convenience over care. These realizations don't come all at once. They surface gradually, often in the quietest moments. A memory here, a realization there, each one peeling back the layers of denial he once relied on. It becomes harder to blame circumstances or misunderstandings when the truth points directly at his own choices. Ego makes this process even more difficult. Admitting he was wrong means letting go of the version of himself tried to protect, the one who always had an excuse, the one who believed he was justified. Accepting responsibility requires humility, and that's something many struggle with when they're forced to confront it alone. There's no one left to reassure him, no one left to absorb the impact of his behavior. What unsettles him most is realizing that he didn't just lose her. He contributed to that loss. It wasn't bad timing or bad luck. It was a series of decisions that led to a predictable outcome. That awareness carries weight because it means things could have been different if he had acted differently. He begins to see how easily he took her for granted, how often he assumed she would stay regardless of how he showed up. This kind of self-reflection isn't comfortable. It challenges his identity and forces him to question how he shows up in relationships. Without distraction or denial, he's left with a clearer view of himself, and that clarity can feel heavier than the loss itself. A quiet sense of unease begins to settle in when he starts thinking about consequences beyond the moment. It's no longer just about what happened between them. It's about what might come back around to him in the future. The way he treated her, the pain he caused, the carelessness he showed, it doesn't feel finished. It feels like something unresolved, something waiting. He begins to imagine himself in the same position she once stood in, giving his time, his loyalty, his emotions to someone who doesn't value it. That thought alone is enough to disturb him. It forces him to step into her perspective, to feel the weight of what he once ignored. And the more he thinks about it, the more real it becomes. The roles could easily be reversed, and he knows he wouldn't handle it lightly. This fear isn't loud or obvious. It doesn't show up in conversations or in the way he presents himself to others. It lingers internally in moments when he reflects on what he did and how easily it could return to him in a different form. The idea that life has a way of balancing things out starts to feel less like a saying and more like a possibility he can't escape. He may try to dismiss it, telling himself that not everything comes back around, that he can move on without facing any consequences. But the thought keeps resurfacing, especially when he witnesses similar situations happening to others. Seeing someone else get hurt in the same way he hurt her becomes a mirror he can't ignore. It reminds him that actions have weight even when the moment has passed. Over time, this fear shapes how he views his own experiences. Every new connection carries a subtle tension, a question in the back of his mind about whether he might one day face the same kind of disappointment he once caused. It's not just about punishment. It's about understanding that what he gave out into the world didn't simply disappear. At some point, the reality settles in that what he had wasn't ordinary. It wasn't just about having someone around. It was about having someone who genuinely cared, who showed up consistently, and who gave without constantly keeping score. When that kind of presence disappears, the absence feels different. It's not just loneliness. It's a noticeable lack of something meaningful that once made life feel more grounded. He may try to fill that space with distractions or new connections, hoping to recreate what he lost. But comparison becomes unavoidable. The way she understood him without needing long explanations, the patience she showed during difficult moments, the quiet support that never demanded attention, those qualities aren't easy to find again. Each new interaction highlights what's missing rather than replacing it. What makes this realization heavier is knowing that he experienced something real and didn't fully recognize it at the time. It's not a mystery to him why it feels so different now. He knows exactly what she brought into his life. That awareness makes every attempt to move on feel incomplete, as if something essential is always just out of reach. He begins to understand that genuine connection isn't built overnight and it can't be forced. What she offered came from sincerity, and that level of authenticity is rare. The more he reflects on it, the clearer it becomes that finding someone with the same depth, patience, and loyalty isn't guaranteed. It's not something you can simply replace with effort or time. This thought stays with him, especially in moments when things feel surface level or temporary. He recognizes the difference between something real and something convenient, and that distinction changes how he views every future relationship. The fear isn't dramatic, but it's persistent. The possibility that what he lost was one of those rare connections that doesn't come around twice. Hurting a good woman doesn't just leave scars on her heart, it leaves lessons on his soul. The truth is, people often realize the value of what they had only after they've lost it. So the message is simple: appreciate real love while you have it. Because once it's gone, no amount of fear, regret, or longing can bring it back.